Today, we will start with chapters 4 and 5. You might remember last time we finished up to chapter 3. And so today we start with chapters 4 and 5. And since we're already 10 minutes in, I'll just very quickly say the prayers to the spiritual master, just the first one, so we can move quickly. Om Jnanam Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshururmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Tadati Swapadantikam. Once again, these slides are the wonderful gift of Her Grace Urmila Mataji. Most of them, much of them, sometimes I make some modifications and some changes, but she's the creator behind these slides, and so I always want to thank her. So in this chapter, in these two chapters, we will be speaking about two main points, which are direct continuations from chapter 3. Chapters 4 and 5 directly continue from chapter 3. And before we do that, very quickly, can someone tell me what was the main point of chapter 3?
Prabhuji, it was knowledge.
Knowledge?
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Divya Bhaktimat.
Eligibility for devotional service.
Yes. So what is that particular knowledge that we talked about? Is the eligibility of devotional service. And who would like to tell what is the eligibility for devotional service? What makes us eligible?
Attraction to Krishna and attraction to devotees.
Yes, attraction to Krishna and attraction to his devotees. Yes. Eligibility for devotional service is attraction to the process of devotional service. That's the only eligibility, that we must be attracted to do devotional service, and that we get by the mercy and association of a devotee. The devotee's association gives us that attraction, and that makes us eligible to practice pure devotional service. And both of these chapters are expansions of this, and that's why I'm going to try really hard today to cover both chapters if Krishna so desires. The main points from these two chapters: one, besides attraction to pleasing Krishna, there's no prerequisite for taking up the practice of pure devotional service. Thus, no one is inherently disqualified or of lesser qualification. Pure devotional service is self-sufficient and requires no assistance from anything extraneous. One simply has to strive for pure devotion, and everything else will be taken care of. Chapter 4 continues giving evidences of devotees who are free from the desires for bhukti and mukti, as stated in the end of chapter 3. Pure devotional service is free from the desire for liberation and sense gratification. Further evidence is given in support of the statement that devotees are free from the desire for bhukti and mukti. Devotees of Krishna in Vrindavan reject the desire for all liberation, even personal liberation to Vaikuntha. So the theme is there's no prerequisite other than pure devotional service. There's no prerequisite for taking practice of devotional service other than attraction, other than the desire to please Krishna. And thus, therefore, the devotee does not have the desire for bhukti and mukti. And this is referred to as the purity of devotional service. This makes devotional service the most pure. Essence of this chapter: details of rejection of bhukti and mukti. Nectar devotion is authorized scripture. Srila Rupa Goswami always quotes extensively from Shastra to substantiate all of his points, analysis, and conclusions. You may remember this. I mentioned this last time as well, that Rupa Goswami doesn't say anything because I said it. This is actually a very nice example for us to follow. When we are in a discussion with other devotees, when we are maybe in a conflict situation, one way to approach it is to move it from this is what I feel to, well, um, what does the spiritual master or the senior Vaishnava or the devotee or the scriptures, what are they saying? And we try to pursue that. Of course, they say different things at different times. So that's not sometimes easy. We have to try to apply it. Or they say certain things that are more important and less important. So it's very nuanced. And so someone like Rupa Goswami is needed to even understand the purport of the scriptures. But still, he's basing it on the scriptures. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:14-44. King Bharat had no attraction for either material opulences or liberation. And therefore, he was on which platform of devotional service? Who knows? King Bharat.
Uttama Adhikari?
Yes, he was Uttamadhikari. And I was referring to Vaidhi Sadhana, Raganunga Sadhana, Bhava, and Prema. So basically, among those stages, which stage was he on?
Bhava.
Bhava, yes, Rel, thank you for that. Yes. So he was on the stage of Bhava, which is a very elevated stage. And the Srimad Bhagavatam describes how the Srimad Bhagavatam decides how Bharat Maharaj was so spiritually exalted. Bharat Maharaj was so wonderful that though he was the emperor of the entire world, undefeated, he had strength, he had opulence, he had a beautiful family, he had all the riches one could imagine for. He had personal bodily health and strength. Yet, when the time came, when his son was old enough, he immediately gave the kingdom to his son. And he immediately gives up his kingdom and his family in the way that one gives up stool after passing stool. And this is not easy because, I mean, once you're so successful, so powerful, and you have everything, I mean, that's our day-to-day experience, politicians, right? You stick on to that seat until the end of life. I mean, there's so much power and prestige there. Yet he gives it up like one gives up stool after passing stool. And this example or analogy is also very telling. Like after we pass stool, do we have any kind of reluctance in pressing the flush, lever? Do we think, oh, should I flush this down or should I not? Or maybe I should just stay here in the toilet. Should I, save it? No, we never think in those ways. In the same way, Bharat Maharaj, it's like he was so renounced, yet so powerful, yet so renounced that though he had everything, he gave it up because he must have had such an attraction for serving Krishna. So this example also tells me, like, why is it that I'm still not practicing pure devotional service? I mean, I have attraction for pure devotional service. We may feel I have so much attraction for pure devotional service every Sunday, even in the cold. Here in Chicago, it's like blistering cold. I drive to the temple. In fact, even sometimes early in the morning, 5 a.m., I drive to the temple. So isn't that attraction for Krishna? Why am I not getting tears of love in my eyes? Because the extent of attraction that we don't realize, right? Yes, that is easy to do. But if someone tells me, no, you become a sannyasi, not that we need to, but at least in mind, you become a sannyasi. That I cannot, right? That is not possible because of the attraction for material life and the lack of attraction for Krishna. So developing a very strong attraction for Krishna means that we will be unattached to bhukti and mukti. Being unattached to bhukti and mukti in the way of Bharat Maharaj is only possible if we have attraction to Krishna in the way that he did, right? So, so these two things go together. And Prabhupada, and I think, yeah, it's actually in the Nectar Devotion, Rupa Goswami says that how can one tell one stage? Yes, when we come to the discussion on bhava and prema, Prabhupada discusses the Nectar Devotion that how can we tell when someone's actually on that platform? And he says that we cannot tell based upon their spiritual emotions, because those things someone can feign. Like speakers in India, when they give Bhagavad Katha, sometimes, I mean, the professional speakers, they will put chilies, dried chilies under their tongue. Because when you have dried chilies under your tongue, then you cry. Tears come down your eyes because of the heat. So they put the chilies so that while they're speaking, tears come down their eyes. And people think, wow, what a speaker. What a great devotee of the Lord. That one can feign. But how do you know if someone's actually on the stage of bhava? What they cannot feign is their detachment from material things. Temporarily, they can feign it. Prabhupada says, for 1 or 2 weeks, you can do it. But for years on end, you cannot make a show of being detached. Because if your motivation is material, then you'll be attracted for material life. You cannot feign what Bharat Maharaj did. If you had all the power in the world, you were the top person in the world, you would not give it up. You could not give it up unless you had attraction for Krishna. So we know that he's on the stage of bhava. The Bhagavatam knows because of his detachment from material life, which became a significant indication of his attachment to Krishna, his genuine attachment to Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam 6:11-25, Vritasura does not care whether he is in heaven or has mystic power or gets liberation. He only wants eternal service. So Vritasura's pastimes, one of the favorite pastimes in the Bhagavatam. It's so wonderful because Vritasura, at one point, he with his trident, he makes forces Indra to drop his thunderbolt. Indra drops it. And at that moment, he could have easily won the battle. And he could have won the battle and killed Indra. Yet he's such a great demon, yet such a great devotee of the Lord. Such a great devotee in a demon's body, rather, I should say, that he stands there and he says, no, it is actually the will of the Lord that you win this battle because you are a demigod. And Krishna wants the demigods to prevail because in general, the demigods are devotees of Krishna. He was an exception. And so he says, you pick up your thunderbolt and kill me. If he did not have genuine attraction for Krishna, he could not have taken that step. Who can actually do that? Allow someone else to kill them if they're materially motivated. So again, the point that the expression of bhakti is seen in their demonstration of self-sacrifice, of service, of detachment, of things that we can actually tangibly see. And therefore, he's even in a more exalted position than Bharat Maharaj at that time. Later on, Bharat Maharaj becomes, fully, liberated. But Vritasura, he's just ready to go back home, back to Godhead. He sees death as freedom. So wonderful. Here. Restarting my computer. Hare Krishna, I apologize. This computer, I have to get it fixed. Uh, it keeps getting stuck. I'm just pulling up the slides. Sorry, thank you for being so patient. So I'm not exactly sure where I ended with Ritasura, but I was mentioning how he wanted um, Indra to win and kill him because he was on that platform of pure devotion. And that was his attraction to going back home, back to God and serving Krishna eternally. Then in Srimad Bhagavatam 6:17-28, Shiva addresses Sati. The devotees of the Lord are not afraid of anything because they have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Narayan. For them, any position in the material world is as good as another. Imagine a life like this, right? Where you're not afraid of anything, and any position is good for you. Any position is as good as any other. This is the mood of Paradukha Dukhi, Prahlad Maharaj, where he says, for me, anything is fine, Krishna. I'm simply concerned about the distress of the other living beings. Because whatever position you put in me, I will be happy because I can chant and glorify your holy name. But all these other souls, they are suffering in this material world. And I'm concerned about them. Indra tells Diti that devotees know their real self-interest. Srimad Bhagavatam 6:18-74. So this is Indra looking after his self-interest. He wants to continue being the king of heaven. So he's going out and aborting the child of Diti. But then he realizes, and then he says that actually I'm not a devotee. The real devotees know their self-interest. The pleasure, Srimad Bhagavatam 7:6-25. I was speaking of Prahlad Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj says, the pleasure of the Lord fulfills all one's desires, and so material benedictions and liberation have no value. The pleasure of the Lord fulfills all one's desires. This is uh, just the devotee wants to please Krishna, and that pleases oneself as well. And this is so true in our material life also, that if we, if our goal always is how we can connect with Krishna, then automatically our other desires become fulfilled. For seeing beautiful places, visiting nice places. If we engage in Krishna's devotional service, then automatically these other things are very nicely arranged by Krishna. Food given to the stomach satisfies the whole body. In the same way, when we serve Krishna, then the entire body becomes nourished. Srimad Bhagavatam 8:320, Gajendra says, I don't have experience of transcendental bliss, but I know that pure devotees are fully satisfied and don't want or pray for anything else. They don't want anything else. So Gajendra's example is a very nice example. As you know, the story of Gajendra, Gajendra was attacked by a crocodile. And for 1,000 years, he fought with the crocodile. And because the crocodile, this is a celestial crocodile, and he's a celestial elephant, because the crocodile was more powerful in the water, and the elephant is more powerful on land. But because they're fighting in the water, he had gone to, drink and bathe in the water. That's when the crocodile caught him. The crocodile was winning. And so at that point, Gajendra lifts his trunk. And in his last life, he was king in the Dumna. And he remembered his devotional service to Krishna. He remembered the prayers that he knew in his last life. And he started to pray to Krishna. He called out for help to Krishna. And at that moment, Krishna comes. At that very moment, Krishna appears. He protects his devotee. And with his Sudarshan Chakra, he cuts off the head of the crocodile and he protects Gajendra. Now, the question is raised that when we pray to Krishna, Krishna, please help me, or when I pray, I should say, then Krishna doesn't come. But when Gajendra prayed, then Krishna came. So what was the difference between Gajendra's prayer, where he was, just, Krishna, please help this crocodile, he's trying to, save his leg, that is to save his life, and our prayer? Why Krishna appeared in his case, but not in our case? Can anyone suggest?
He was a pure devotee. He had
Very,
all the qualities of the pure devotee, all those 5 and 6 qualities which are there in a pure devotee.
very nice. Yes, here the pure
And,
devotee. Yet pure
and
devotion.
I think,
Yes.
sorry, and I
Please.
think that he surrendered while praying, he surrendered fully.
Okay. So you surrender to Krishna. I am your soul surrendered to you. I am serving you. Yes.
And I also think he depended on Krishna. His only solace was Krishna and nobody else.
He was depending on Krishna only. He wasn't looking towards someone else. Last night, actually, we were discussing that how Draupadi, when she calls out for Krishna, she first holds on to her sari and calls out to Krishna. And then after a moment, then she leaves everything, puts her arms up, which is the ultimate risk, because she was a Kshatriya girl. She had the strength to hold on while the Kshatriya boy was trying to take it off. So she was using her strength. But when she puts her hands up, then Krishna then immediately comes, because she fully surrenders to Krishna. She takes the ultimate risk and says, I'm only going to depend on you, Krishna, and I have full faith in you. She shows that she has full faith in the Lord, that he will come. And that's why she takes that risk. And that's why she raises both of her arms in the air, calls out to Krishna. Krishna immediately comes. So to your point, yes, Gajendra fully surrenders to Krishna. These are very wonderful answers. Other answers? Yeah.
One thing more, Krishna doesn't let down the pure devotees. He always helps when they are in dire straits.
This is a good point that you're making. Very nice. And in his last life, he was king in the Dumna. He was a very advanced devotee. He made some mistakes, so he became an elephant, but he's still a pure devotee, and Krishna must come. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashva shantim nigachiti kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Krishna says, Arjuna, you declared my devotee never perishes. Right? Very nice.
Prabhu, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
So we say that Krishna is equipoised and he doesn't differentiate between the living entities.
Yes.
He looks at them equally. So then the question can come that, okay, why only he comes when a pure devotee calls, and why he doesn't come when somebody else calls? That then he's differentiating that, okay, I'm more more merciful to the pure devotees, but I'm not. It's okay if I don't go for the others. That question can come. So how do you, if somebody would ask that question, how do you
respond to it?
Address that?
Yes, yes. And that's exactly kind of you're raising the issue that I was raising, that yes, it's this pure devotion It's his devotion. What is the quality of that devotion? Yes, Lalita
Hare, Hare
Mataji.
Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Leaving his ego, like he waited for 1,000 years, depending on friends or relatives or whoever were the other elephants having, thinking that they might come for help. Leaving that ego or thinking I'm very strong, I can still handle it.
Mm.
Leaving that ego and trying to, at last, when that ego goes, then you get the mood of surrender.
Yes.
Until then, it doesn't happen.
No, that's the thing. It's a fact that for 1,000 years, he gets smashed. And this is our life also. This is our life also, that why Krishna doesn't immediately respond. And it's partly also answering Mother Krishna Prabhu's query that until we don't get a little, beat up, Krishna doesn't respond or cannot respond because we have a big ego. And he was like, I'm a big elephant. He was the king of the elephants. I can handle this, right? So Krishna has to reduce the ego. Sucharu Radharani Mataji.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
So Prabhuji, in Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned. So whatever level the percentage you surrender to Krishna, Krishna responds in the similar way. So if I'm appreciating Krishna, if I'm worshipping Krishna to get my sense gratification satisfied, he will give me that much only. So whatever percentage I'm contributing, Krishna will respond in the same percentage. And if you surrender fully, he will surrender, he'll respond 100%. So that was the difference between Gajendra and devotee and a non-devotee.
Very nice, very nice, wonderful. That is a very good point. That is the that he surrendered fully, so Krishna responds fully. Krishna is perfectly fair, to Badr Krishna Prabhu's point. He's fully fair and he responds accordingly. And what he says in the Gita. Okay, before this goes, before we have just Srinivas Pundarik Prabhu, you raise your hand.
Oh, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, they are pronounced. I just want to add one point that I've heard from the Sri Sampradaya, which I'm a little more familiar. So the way that they tell is that, Mahalakshmi, right? Lakshmi Narayana, Mahalakshmi was asking, hey, Gajendra is your devotee, but it took 1,000 years. Why didn't you go, earlier? And then he used to respond that, yes, he is my devotee, he is fully surrendered. But the reason is, he did not call me immediately. Then Mahalakshmi was asking, why won't you go when your devotee does not call? He said, I can go. But if you say that he will protect himself, and if he neglects me, then it doesn't make sense. So that's the reason I always wait. When my devotee calls, and I go immediately. But when he does not call, I go. But the other thing is here is that Gajendra was saying that he will also pluck the lotus flower, right? And then during his prayer, I think, and in the explanation is given, he says that I'm not calling you to just save my life. I'm calling you because I plucked a lotus flower. I wanted to, submit the lotus flower in your lotus feet. So he explains that.
Yes. No, very, very nice point. And I want to expand on this. And Prabhu, maybe later on you can send me this reference if you can find it.
Sure.
Because I want to read it actually. I was wondering where the source of this is. And what you mentioned at the end, that he plucks the lotus flower. He says, I'm not just doing this to call you, but I want to offer it to your lotus feet. Yes. Wow, so beautiful. So nice. Okay, we'll come back to that. Rahel.
Prabhu, that statement he made, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. I was told he's not referring to the body. So I guess my question is, does he remain aloof to the conditions of our body, or?
Very nice point. So the way Bhakti Charu Maharaj explained this, I heard in his class, is that, well, actually, my mother heard from his class, and then she told me, so that's a little parampara here, is that when Gajendra prays to the Lord, then he's not praying to Krishna, that, oh, Krishna, please save my life and kill this horrible crocodile. That's not his prayer. His prayer is, my dear Lord, I'm done with this material world. Please take me out of this material world. Please take me under the shelter of your lotus feet. So that's the difference between the quality of his prayer and the quality of my prayer. When I pray to Krishna, and there's I was living in Florida, and there's crocodiles, alligators all over. In fact, the pond behind our home, the shallow pond, it had a crocodile. And we had a close encounter with it as well. So if the crocodile, I never went swimming in the lake, but it would come out sometimes in our backyard. So if the crocodile held onto my leg, then I would pray to Krishna, Krishna, please save me from this crocodile so I can go back to my enjoyment of mature life. So I can, go skiing again. I don't ski, but just as an example. I would be praying to Krishna that Krishna, please protect my body. Please protect my mature life. Please protect my sense enjoyment. And that's why Krishna is not obliged or inclined to respond personally. He responds to Bhadra Krishna Prabhu's question, to his response. He responds through the laws of karma. It is, you are a good person. It's your karma to be free from the crocodile. So therefore you'll be free. Well, in your last life, you broke someone else's leg. Well, no, in this life, it's not your karma. I have to be fair to the other person also. So I will not save you from the clutches of the crocodile until that crocodile bites off part of your leg, which happens all the time in Florida. We read it in the newspaper. So then he responds through the laws of nature. He is responding, but through the laws of nature. But when we ask the Lord, when we want him, then he responds personally. So Krishna is impartial. If someone is not asking for Krishna, then how can Krishna appear? Then he's giving something that person doesn't want. I'm liking my mature life. I don't want the change of my mature life. Even if Krishna came to me, I would still go back to my mature life. There's so many we read in narrations of the Bhagavatam where the demigods, they see the Lord, and then after offering prayers, then they ask the Lord for permission. Krishna, can I go back to my heavenly abode? Krishna says, yes, you can go. It's surprising. They're seeing the Lord, yet they're, unlike Prahlad Maharaj, they're not saying, Krishna, I just want your darshan birth after birth. So even if Krishna came, we would still say, very good, nice to see you, but I want to continue my mature life, because we don't have the eyes to see Krishna. We don't have the heart to accept him. We would see him like we see the deity form of Krishna. We see Krishna every day, every Sunday at least. We are seeing him, but are we giving up our mature life? We cannot, because we don't have that bhakti. So all these answers were correct, because since he has pure devotion, therefore he's ready to receive Krishna in his heart. Because yes, he's a pure devotee, therefore he's praying not to become free from his crocodile, but to be free from material life. And this is why this slide here says, I don't have experience of transcendental bliss, but I know that pure devotees are fully satisfied and don't want or pray for anything else. So this is so perfect, and that's why this reminded that he is fully satisfied and he's not praying for anything else other than pure devotional service. And when we start praying like that, then Krishna responds personally. He responds in every situation, but he responds personally. Rashmi Mataji or Abhijit Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, you just mentioned that Gajendra prayer said, I'm done with this material life and please take me out of here. I'm trying to unpack it because the way I understood, maybe there's a mistake in how I'm interpreting it, that pure devotees actually don't ask for anything, whether it is I'm done with material life or basically nothing, right? It is more like Krishna, whatever pleases you, I'll do it. At least that's how I'm interpreting it. And we are saying Gajendra is a pure devotee. So I'm trying to connect these 2 points. Can you please help me?
Yes. So just wanting to please Krishna means being done with material life. Another place in the Bhagavatam where Yayati is speaking, I think to his wife, he says, after trying to enjoy this material life for so many years, I'm done with material lust. I'm done with lust. So service to Krishna and being done with material lust are one and the same thing. Because if we're not done with lust, then we're not fully attached to serving Krishna. We want to serve our senses. And then his request that please, I'm done with this. Take me back home, back to Godhead. The devotee also prays to go back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada says this. But what is the mood that he prays in? Going back home, back to Godhead means the continuous service of Krishna. So going back home, back to Godhead can mean serving Krishna in the material world. But when we're serving Krishna, that is back home, back to Godhead. So that's, sometimes you'll find devotees saying, just take me back home, back to Godhead, Krishna. So is that a material prayer? No, not necessarily in a certain context, because because they don't want liberation or mukti as a way to escape material suffering and experience spiritual bliss, which is the way the yogis and the jnanis approach it. They get sick of material life. First, they enjoy material life, and then they get sick of material life, and then they want spiritual pleasure. And they want to become a great philanthropist, a great yogi. And the devotee wants to go back home, back to God, because that's the place where you can serve Krishna. You don't have the inhibition or the limitations of a material body. At the same time, back home, back to God, it means serving Krishna, so that they pray, let me serve you in hell, I'm happy to go there. So that's just the context of saying it, kind of the difference of mood. So yes, just like Srinivas Punariki Prabhu was saying, that he's saying, I just want to offer you service. I wasn't offering you this lotus flower so you come and save me. I was offering this lotus flower to you because I want to offer this to your lotus feet, because your lotus feet are so fragrant. Yes. Very nice point. Okay, next slide. I'll just close the door 1 second. So we see here how many references, examples from the scriptures Rupa Goswami is giving. Yet he gives another one. This is the thoroughness of our acharyas. Srimad Bhagavatam 9.467, Lord of Vaikuntha, Lord Narayan, says to Durvasa Muni, such an amazing pastime. It's like by reading the Nectar devotion, you actually, you dive into the Bhagavatam. Where would you find such a nectarian flow of pastimes? We forget about them, and Rupa Goswami brings them all together and the essence of them. So Durvasa Muni offends Ambarish Maharaj. He goes all around the universe begging for forgiveness. He goes all the way to Lord Narayan and says, please forgive me, except going to Ambarish Maharaj. And what does the Lord says? My pure devotees are always satisfied being engaged in devotional service. And therefore they do not aspire even after the 5 liberated stages. You can know how little they care for material opulences. He's telling Durvasa Muni, you care about your respect and your honor, and how dare someone offends me, I'm such a big yogi. My devotee Ambarish Maharaj doesn't even care for liberation. He only wants to love me and serve me. How can I see him being mistreated by you? And the only solution to this, you have to go back to him. So, but why is he so dear to me? Because he doesn't aspire for anything else. Even liberation, he doesn't. So that he is describing as the marker of a devotee. So what are the 5 types of liberation? To become one with the Lord, Sayujya Mukti, to live at the same planet as the Lord, Salokya, to obtain the same bodily features as the Lord, Sarupya, to have the same opulences as the Lord, Sarshti, to have constant association with the Lord, Samipya. Or maybe I mixed up the last 2. If anyone knows, you can let me know. So these are the 5 types of liberation. And none of these the devotee prays for. So the devotee is not even eager to have the constant association of the Lord. If the Lord wants him to serve at a distance, though it's more pleasurable to be with the Lord, the devotee wants to serve the Lord at a distance. Just like Srila Prabhupada, right? He came to this material world. Who wants to come to this very troublesome material world? He comes here simply out of his love for Krishna. Then to the Nagapatnis, they say, Dear Lord, these are the wives of the Kaliya serpent who are pure devotees of the Lord. Dear Lord, the dust of your lotus feet is very wonderful. Any person who is fortunate enough to achieve this dust does not care for heavenly planets, lordship over all the planetary systems, the mystic perfections of yoga, or even liberation from material existence. In other words, anyone who adores the dust of your lotus feet does not care a fig for all other perfectional stages. See, such passages, they increase our determination in devotional life, our bhakti, because they make us realize that this is the only thing that I want. This is the only thing I should aspire for, is the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna. The wives of the Kaliya serpent, when they see that Krishna is dancing on the heads of Kaliya, they think that our husband must be the most exalted person. How fortunate he is, because the dust of Krishna's feet is hitting all of his heads. He was like, but in doing so, the dust was going on every one of his heads. And they're saying, even the great yogis, even Lord Brahma, they don't get the dust of even once you don't put your feet on their head. And how is this Kaliya serpent so fortunate that, thousands, multiple times, maybe hundreds of times, Krishna danced on his heads. And every time the dust is, shaking off of his feet and coming on his head. What a fortunate soul. Imagine the vision of a devotee. They're not seeing that, blood is flowing from his mouth and Krishna, you're destroying him. What they're seeing is, this is the best thing. This is the only thing a person would want. We don't care for anything else. And anyone who gets the dust of your lotus feet doesn't care for anything else. So your dust, you must be so wonderful. If even your dust is so wonderful, then how wonderful, Krishna, you must be. And if I have you, what will my family, my kids, my wife, what can they give me? In other words, in the context of the dust of your lotus feet, all of these things are paltry. They're very small. Because once I have the dust, then nothing else I need. Nothing else gives me that pleasure or happiness. Something which, from a material point of view, the dust of someone's feet is of no value, when it's from Krishna's lotus feet, is so wonderful that the devotee is happy to keep taking birth if he or she can have that dust. Birth after birth. Mama janmani janmani share bhavatad bhaktir haitakitai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, let me take birth after birth after birth in this material world, if I can be your unalloyed devotee. And Prabhupada, in one place, he explains, what does it mean to get the dust of a pure devotee? Getting the dust of the pure devotee means getting the opportunity to hear from a pure devotee. So that is the point. That hearing from the pure devotee is the greatest opportunity in our life, because then we get the dust. And if we truly have a taste, we'll just want to hear from the lips of the pure devotee. During the month of Kartik, Damodar is prayed to as follows. My dear Lord, you are the Lord of all, the giver of all benedictions. I do not ask you for liberation or any material facility up to the point of liberation. What I want as your favor is that I may always think of your form in which I see you now as Damodar. You are so beautiful and attractive that my mind does not want anything besides this wonderful form. The devotee just wants to see the Lord. The Bhagavatam says, the gopis in the Bhagavatam, they say, all day they're waiting for Krishna to come back home. Right? They're sitting and they're churning the butter all day. They're, like we are thinking about all of our problems and thinking this is what I'm going to say to this person. This is how I'm going to get back to this person. All day they are meditating on Krishna's pastimes. And all day they're a bit disturbed, anxious, because they're just waiting for Krishna to come back. And then when it gets time for Krishna to come back, they get up on their rooftops. They look out and they're just trying to see when will the dust cloud from all the cows and Krishna and the coward boys, when will that dust cloud become visible? And as soon as that dust cloud is visible, their hearts leap in joy, and they keep looking. And as they're looking, then out of that dust cloud comes out Krishna and Balaram right in front. And when he comes, then they say this verse. They say the perfection of the eyes is to see Krishna and Balaram with their flutes tucked in their belts, walking forward in the dust of Vrindavan. That is the perfection of the eyes, to see Krishna and Balaram. That there's no other perfection of the eyes. So once a devotee has seen Krishna, they want to see nothing else other than Krishna. So again, here one could say, well, if devotees are pure devotees, then why are they asking to see Krishna? They should say, I only want to serve you. But this is in the mood of devotion, right? This is the nature of devotion. Again, what is the mood that they're saying in? They're saying it in the mood of service, that I just want to see you, Krishna. I don't want Janma, Aishwarya, Shuta, Shri. I don't want Dhanam, Janam, Sundarim, right? I don't want any of this, but I just want to see you, my Lord. Of course, if Krishna says, no, you don't see me, but you go and preach, but they'll see Krishna still in their heart. And that's what they're asking for. They want their pure devotion. They want pure bhakti. That is something we can ask for. And one of the aspects of pure bhakti is that we will always see Krishna. So this is a prayer of pure devotion. I do not ask you for liberation or any material facility up to the point of liberation. What I want as your favor is that I may always think of your form in which I see you now as Damodar. You are so beautiful and attractive that my mind does not want anything besides this wonderful form. And we all know the story of Damodar. So wonderful. And then, just see, I mean, it's so amazing. Even Lord Hanuman's prayer is mentioned here by Rupa Goswami. Like he didn't miss anything. Hanuman is the selfless servant of Lord Ram. Just see the exchange of love between them. My dear Lord, if you like, you can give me salvation from this material existence, or the privilege of merging into your existence. But I do not wish any of these things. I do not want anything which diminishes my relationship with you as servant to master, even after liberation. So this is something that Prahlad Maharaj also says. This second part of this is very important. These prayers are there, we read them, but then when we read them closely, we actually understand the significance of the words of these great souls. He says, I do not want anything which diminishes my relationship with you as servant and master, even after liberation. So when Prahlad Maharaj comes to Lord Nrsingadev, when he offers his respects to Lord Nrsingadev, Nrsingadev's anger becomes pacified. And then he puts his hand on Prahlad's head. And then Nrsingadev tells Prahlad that you ask me for something. I'll make you the next king, ask for a kingdom, ask for something. And then in response to that, Prahlad Maharaj says that, my dear Lord, the only relationship between you and me is of a selfless servant and a selfless master. I am your servant and you are my master. And my dear Lord, please don't introduce something that will disturb this relationship. Please don't ask me to ask you for something by which this will become a business relationship. I have the sweetest relationship with you. I'm loving this relationship. Please don't do me this unfavor. Don't do this lack of favor to me. So Krishna's offering him a favor, but he's saying this is not a favor. You are messing it up for me because I'm enjoying this relationship. So Hanumanji is saying the same thing, that we have this relationship of servant and master, and there's nothing in the three worlds that could be more spiritually and inspiring and satisfying than this selfless servant relationship. So please don't bring anything in between. Don't give me something by which I will feel that I got something for my devotional service, and that will become a problem. And this is why advanced devotees we see in our movement, they're so keen in not being recognized, in not receiving a prize or a medal. We think, oh, we're such a devotee, should be recognized. Why not this, that, and this? They should be. From our side, we should be very careful to recognize the offering and the service of devotees. But from their side, they're not so concerned. They don't want it. In fact, it's a disturbance, because there's a chance if that recognition comes, there's a chance if that the payment for their service comes, that relationship could turn into a business relationship with Krishna. And so to avoid that at all costs, the pure devotees hide their devotion. They hide their service, because then something else will come in the middle. And that is a quality of a great devotee. And only by reading these great souls, only by meditating on these words, can we actually continuously remind ourselves to keep that mood. Because the material conditioning is such that we automatically always slip back into our calculating mode, right? And the material life is calculation. If I do this, I'll get this. If I do this, I do this. That's the calculation mode. And the devotee doesn't want the calculation mode. The devotee wants what is best for Krishna. He is willing to fight any fight if it's best for Krishna. And he's willing to forego or sacrifice any fight if it's best for Krishna. Right? Hanumanji fought the greatest battle because it was best for Lord Ram and Mother Sita. Because for their service, it was best. But yet he was not willing to take any comfort or position for himself. He's not willing to even lift a pebble for his own pleasure. He was not willing to fight any battle for his own pleasure. Yet he was willing to move mountains. He actually moved mountains for Krishna's pleasure. So actually that term, moving mountains, it comes from Ramayana. So he moved mountains. Out of his love for Lord Ram, he could move mountains for him. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.10. In this Atmarama verse, it is stated that even those who are completely liberated from material contamination are attracted by the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna. The quotations have shown how all pure devotees specifically reject the first type of liberation, to become one with the Lord. However, some devotees may desire the other types of liberation. Devotees of Vrindavan, however, desire only to please Krishna. They do not even desire any of the 4 types of Vaikuntha liberation. Therefore, they are the purest of all pure devotees. Right? The famous story of Krishna's headache and the dust, and the gopis willing to give the dust of their feet to Krishna so his headache goes away. And Narad Muni asks them, aren't you afraid to do this? You may go to hell for doing this. And they say, that is no problem. We'll go to hell. If that removes Krishna's headache for even one moment, we're willing to go to hell. While Vaishnavas never accept merging into the Lord's effulgence, they may accept the other 4 types of liberation if helpful for their service. Right? Back to the same point that we had mentioned before. But the greatest happiness of the devotee is simply service, even if that service means taking many births in the material world. So this is a very nice summary. It says it perfectly. So we're happy to go back to Godhead if we can serve Krishna there, if that's the service Krishna has for us. But we're happy to stay here and keep taking births if we have service here in the material world. But we can't be artificially humble as well. No, Krishna wants me to go back to Godhead, but no, I'm going to stay here because my compassion is even greater than Krishna's compassion. No, the devotees come here because they want to, but only when Krishna allows and when he wants them to do that service. But when he misses them and calls them back, then they go back. And this is why the great devotees leave this material world, because they go back. It is significant. Prabhupada states several points. Those with the 4 Vaishnava liberations in Vaikuntha may develop love for Krishna and progress from Vaikuntha to Goloka Vrindavan. So he actually says this at several points, that with the 4 that even in Vaikuntha we can make progress. And this is a point that the acharyas, Prabhupada, and our recent acharyas also, our great souls in this movement, have said that how even in the spiritual world, we are continuously making spiritual advancement. Even the greatest devotees are making spiritual advancement. Mother Yashoda is making advancement by seeing Srimati Radharani. All the other mothers in Vrindavan are making advancement by seeing Mother Yashoda. The only person who's unlimitedly advanced is, everyone is unlimitedly advanced, but the only person who in one sense doesn't make more advancement is Srimati Radharani. But even her love for Krishna is continuously expanding. But everyone is learning from Srimati Radharani and from Lord Balaram. So even in the Vaikuntha planets, they are progressing more and more to unalloyed, to even within perfect, their love becomes more and more perfect, even though it's fully perfect. And that's only a spiritual logic. While one can analyze that the residents of Vrindavan are the foremost, first-class devotees, a devotee who is attached to a different form should not be seen as lower, because such a devotee's attachment is based on personal love. The fact that attachment to Krishna is higher doesn't mean that attachments to other incarnations is lower. So everyone in spiritual life is making advancement, yet unlike the material logic, where a person who makes advancement is more advanced than the person below him, in spiritual life, we start with perfect. Just because they're making advancement doesn't mean that they are higher and someone else is lower. Because even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in one place, Prabhupada says that pure devotional service actually only exists in Golok Vrindavan. And It doesn't exist in Vaikuntha. And in that context, Prabhupada is referring to pure devotional service as pure devotional service free from awe and reverence. And when it's free from awe and reverence, it's more intimate and it's closer, right? But at the same time, the residents of Vaikuntha are also performing pure devotional service. Otherwise, how could they be in Vaikuntha? So Prabhupada is saying it in a specific context. So we should never feel that, oh, the cowherd boys in the Leela of Krishna are more advanced than Hanuman, Lord Hanuman, in the pastimes of Lord Ram. They are perfectly advanced, in both situations, in both serving either as Krishna or as Lord Ram, an incarnation of Krishna. A devotee who is attached to a particular form of the Lord does not wish to redirect his devotion to other forms. For example, Hanuman, the devotee of Lord Ram, knew that there's no difference between Lord Ramachandra and Lord Narayan, and yet he still wanted to render service only unto Lord Ramachandra. That is due to the specific attraction of a particular devotee. So there's ethics and there's aesthetics, right? There's logic and there's aesthetics. So these discussions and many discussions in the Nectar devotion are on the platform of not logic, but aesthetic, right? You may say, well, if he is a pure devotee of the Lord, then why isn't he happy to serve Lord Narayan? Because on the platform of pure love, once, all these logical things are there until we come to the platform of pure love. When that relationship between the Lord and the devotee is so intimate, then there's a feeling of possessiveness where the devotee feels that he possesses the Lord. And this is not because of ego, but is the intensity of the love of a devotee. And when they feel that they possess the Lord, they become attached to Krishna because they know that that attachment in that particular form pleases Krishna. They know that Krishna wants that love in that way. So they become attached to Krishna a certain way and in serving him in a certain way because continuously the Lord is reciprocating and encouraging them in that way. So we cannot apply the same principles of selfless devotion that we apply to a new devotee to someone like Hanumanji. That, well, okay, why don't you serve Krishna? Why are you attached? Just like if certain pujaris are serving the deities on the altar, sometimes they're asked to rotate. Says, well, if you're on the level of pure devotion, it shouldn't make a difference if you're serving Gaurnitai or Jagannath Bali Subhadra. And that is true and maybe completely correct on the level of sadhana bhakti. But then on the platform of bhava and prema, that may not be true. And so if we're still on the level of sadhana, we should wait before we apply this logic that, well, no, I'm only attracted to serving Radha and Krishna. I can't serve him in any other form. Well, maybe. But maybe, yes, if we are on that platform, maybe we're experiencing that, but it's of a very advanced level. From a lecture on Nectar Devotion, Calcutta, 1973, Prabhupada says, so why the pure devotee will ask for anything else? For a devotee, Krishna is within the palm of a devotee. We were just reading this yesterday in the chapter Nalaku Veda and Manigriv. In the 10th canto, this is Prabhupada's purport. These were the last chapters that Prabhupada wrote. Such amazing purports. I mean, so wonderful purports. Krishna is in the palm of a devotee. Although Krishna is not conquerable, but he likes to be conquered by his friends. Krishna is only going to put himself under the control of someone who will not use him for anything selfish or harmful. Therefore, when one doesn't want anything but Krishna's service, then such a person gets the Lord, who is everything. Okay, and that's the end of chapter 4. Once again, I was not able to fulfill my intention of trying to do 2 chapters. We should stop here now. It's actually just the right time. We have about 10 minutes for discussion, questions, answers. And if anyone has any thoughts, any reflections, any inspirations, you can share them.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, it was amazing class as usual. The 5 types of mukti, what we saw, were like so many wonderful examples why we should not desire for that was really interesting. And even I was thinking maybe that only could be the reason. Like when you are trying to think about those 5 muktis, if you're desiring for any one of them, so you are trying to leave the platform of serving the Lord and go into that enjoying mode again. So there is a possibility that again a false ego and again fall down. So it's better. It's not really a good safe idea to choose for those 5 types of mukti. It is always good that we are thinking we are serving Krishna. Remain in that like Jivera Swarupa Krishnera Nityadas.
Yes.
In that baseline, we can always keep connected to Krishna.
Yes. Very nice point. Very beautifully said, Mataji. To kind of complement your point, in one place, actually, Prabhupada says that on our level, we can actually ask Krishna for going back home, back to Godhead, like Golok Vrindavan, not Sayujya Mukti or not the muktis of Vaikuntha, but of going back home, back to Godhead. We can ask just because we're on such a neophyte level that even just the desire to extricate ourselves from the material world and go back to Krishna is something that is rare and something that we are working towards. And then, as you're saying, as we advance in spiritual life more and more, then we realize, well, serving Krishna, this is back to Godhead. And then we don't ask Krishna for things, even to go back home, back to Godhead, but we just want his pure devotion. So like we were seeing so many times in the descriptions of the nectar of devotion that we were reading, that there's different levels of prayers according to different devotees. A prayer at my level may be appropriate, but then on a higher level, that prayer may not be the prayer of a devotee, right? So as we advance, the prayers change. And so on our level, we can ask Krishna, please take me back home, back to Godhead, because that is advancement for us. So, and as we advance, then we won't. Yes, Hare Krishna. Whether Krishna Prabhu?
So Prabhu, to further Mataji's point, that if we desire and ask Krishna that, okay, I want this liberation, then it kind of becomes a contradiction that on one hand we are saying that I'm happy to be in whatever state you keep me, but then we are desiring that, okay, I wish I could get that mukti, one of the 5 liberations. So then, Krishna says, okay, then you're basically enacting your free will, but you are asking me to come into the picture and fulfill your free will. So
yes,
it becomes a contradiction. So then it's better to just, be at the level that, Krishna, you do whatever you feel is right for me.
Yes. So maybe I can give one example that, like, some devotees, they want to go to Vrindavan, our Vrindavan meaning the Vrindavan here on this planet Earth. They want to go to Vrindavan and, join 24-hour kirtan, or, just do parikramas. There's so much bliss in here, these wonderful classes, and they want to stay in Vrindavan. And the instruction of their spiritual master may be that don't go to Vrindavan. Maybe they're younger, they're not older. It's not time for them to retire. Don't go to Vrindavan. Go out and preach, and struggle in the cold of the Siberian winds of Siberia. That is higher, right? The spiritual master says that, right? So one fine day, the spiritual master finds his disciple in Vrindavan. Now, and when they sees him in Vrindavan, they appreciate. Oh, it's so nice you're here in Vrindavan. I saw this myself with my spiritual master. So why are they appreciating? That's not the highest level of devotion. It's not selfless. The first instruction was, preach. That's more important. Because at least that devotee is not out at the bar and enjoying material life, right? So one is that, okay, you can be on the path of devotional service and still be, attached to sinful activities, or still be trying to enjoy your senses, and it's all about, money and this and that. So at least that person has given up that and come to Vrindavan. So from the perspective of being attached to material life, leaving everything, coming to Vrindavan is a great step forward. But then once they're there, then the second conversation was, why aren't you going back to Russia? Why are you here? Why are all of you here? You've made an ideal community for yourself. You have a picture perfect life. That's wonderful. And you have a spiritual life. But there's even a higher principle. You're leading the picture perfect life, but Prabhupada left Vrindavan to save the conditioned souls. So then they say, okay, now go up to the next point. So that's the same mood and idea. That, okay, one level is I stay attached to the material world. Prabhupada is saying, since we're on that level of being attached to the material world, if we asked Krishna, please take me back home, back to Godhead, I don't want this material world, at least we've made a huge step of advancement forward, right? We've advanced so much. And then once we're on that stage, okay, at least the stage of detachment and attachment to Krishna, then they're going to say, okay, now read the 8th verse the 7th verse of the Shikshashtaka, and say, no, don't ask Krishna for going back home, back to God. Ask him for his unalloyed devotion, that you want to even be in this material birth after birth and serve him. So in that way, there's no contradiction. It's just stages and levels of devotion, and us being gently brought forward by Prabhupada and the Acharyas. Does that answer the question? Okay, wonderful. So Haripriya, this is perfect timing. Unless someone else has questions, Haripriya, please summarize. Thank you.
Yes, bro. So
one more question. Sorry, one quick question before. Sucharu Radharani Mataji. I was thinking that someone had a question, but I didn't remember.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my first, that's what I understood, from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, maybe I think 5.20 verse, with equal vision. So, so what I understood was like, if we have an equal vision, for that, we develop a humbleness. And when we develop a humbleness, the serving bhav comes. So when we ask Krishna that, please call me, or I want to be with you in Golok or Vaikunt, so we are demanding something to serve him. And when the knowledge which Krishna gave us is serving him, serving his devotees, that's what Ambrish Maharaj and that example also says, story says. So when we have a bhav or mode of serving devotees and serving deities, I guess that seva bhav gets fulfilled. And when we are involved in so much, then we don't get time to think that we have to go back to Krishna, to back to Godhead, because we are doing whatever we will be doing there. But when we are saying that, please, I want to go to back to Godhead, that means we want to get rid of material world just to get the pleasure or get the comfort zone of Krishna's world.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, no, that's the thing. That's one of the pitfalls we have to look forward to is, and the Nectar devotion explicitly refers to this, that are we doing devotional service for Krishna's pleasure, or my pleasure or our pleasure? That's the essence of your question. That am I doing devotional service for Krishna's pleasure or my pleasure? Because in devotional service also there's so much pleasure. And what example does Rupa Goswami give to answer this? He says that was his name Daruka? He says the devotee who fans the Lord. He's fanning the Lord, and there's so much ecstasy in seeing the Lord and fanning him that tears flow down his eyes. You know, when we do devotional service and it's really like devotional service, we feel a sense of ecstasy. It's like, you know, there could be nothing better than this. Like sometimes when we're sitting in the audience in the aura of a pure devotee, it's just you feel that ecstasy like I wouldn't be in any other place other than this at this time. And so he's like that. He's next to Krishna, and tears are flowing down his eyes. And when they're flowing down his eyes, you know, he's feeling this immense happiness, right? Then he's not able to fan Krishna properly because he can't see the Lord. And like, you know, the fan is, you know, you have to see the person you're fanning to fan them properly. So then in his mind, this devotee is cursing his tears. He's saying, these tears, they're coming in the middle of my service to Krishna. I mean, he could increase that happiness by crying more, but he's saying no, he's stopping the tears because his first meditation is, what can I do to please Krishna? And as you mentioned, that's our mood with the devotee also, that how can I serve the pure devotee, not what is best for me, but what is best for them. My Guru Maharaj once said this directly to me. He said, when I was complaining a lot, then he said that most devotees in our movement, they think what is best for them. But it's rare to find a devotee who thinks what is best for Srila Prabhupada's movement. Not what's best for me, but what's best for Prabhupada's movement. And let me do that, right? So this is what we aspire for. This is our practice of devotional life, that let me continuously meditate on what is best for the movement. Now, we cannot make advancement artificially very quickly. So in the process, we have to sometimes think back and think, what is best for my spiritual life? Because otherwise we won't even survive. Like Prabhupada said that when you get married, 70% of your spiritual life is finished. So then why do devotees get married? Because their realization comes that, well, if I don't get married, then 100% of my spiritual life might get finished, or at least 90%, right? Because if I don't get married, then I'll be always agitated, and or I'll fall down, won't do it properly, and so my spiritual life will be completely finished. So sometimes we care for ourselves because that's important in serving the Lord and seeing what's best for the Lord. But the goal is ultimately to come to the platform of just thinking what is best for my service to Srila Prabhupada and my spiritual master and the devotees. Right?
Prabhuji, I have one more question, but it's not related to the topic. It is regarding the exam
Okay.
and
Yes.
homework. So Prabhuji, whatever the verse memorization is there, so do we have to send the recording of it, or because it is my first time, so
Nice.
I have no
Nice
idea.
question. So on the exam, you'll need to write them down by memory. The verse in any language, so you can write it in Sanskrit or the Roman transliteration, or Telugu or Hindi, whatever your native language is, whatever
Yeah.
you feel most comfortable, you write the verse and then write the English translation. So that's how the verses will be tested. So you have, as we go, and in the Nectar devotion, there's such few verses. As we are going, we're memorizing verses, and by the end we'll have like maybe, what is it, 5 or 6 verses total, or less than that?
Four verses are there.
Yes. And so you'll just need to, the exam question will say, write down these 4 verses with translations.
So are there any word limit for that?
Well, you'll write the verse and the translation.
No word limit. It's like
as accurately as possible. So, I mean, this is not an essay. This is, you're just writing the translation of the verse.
okay. But for the homework, we don't have to send the video or anything else.
No, not at all. That's just, that memorization is assigned for that homework.
Okay. And second question is for the whatever questions are there and whatever answers we are giving. So for that also, is there any word limit, or it is just
No.
like whatever we
Yes. It's whatever you do, and it's self-study. So I don't grade them. I don't, I just make, when you send it in, that I know that you've done it. The homeworks are self-study, and you have the study guide, which I gave, and that's so detailed that the study guide has all the answers to the homework actually. But I want you to read the chapter, find the results, and then you can also consult the study guide.
So in exams also, there will be no word limit.
So in the exams, that I grade, and in the exams, I'm still actually getting the Gita exams back to the students. I will get them back. My semester's ending in 2 days, so then I'll have a break and I'll do it for everyone, the rest of you here waiting. So yeah, that I give you word limits. There's one essay question, and there's a word limit for that. The rest of them are multiple choice or short answer. So yes, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Haripriya, you can conclude.
Yes. So my first point was that pure devotional service is free from sense gratification. And then my next point is that Bharat Maharaj was on the stage of Bhav. He although had everything so nice, he still gave up his family up like we gave up stool once we pass it up. No, and we have no reluctance.
Sorry to disturb you, but I liked your analogy. He gave up material life like we gave up school. That was also true. Like we gave up school or stool. Either way, for children, just like they leave school. School is done. That's like he did that. Yes.
Yes,
Continue.
and my next point was that artificially we show of crying in bhava, but all of them are of no use. Instead we should be detached like how Vritasur was. He was a great devotee in a demon's body, and thus this could be seen when he tells Indra to kill him. This was because he was a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because he wanted the demigods to win, but Krishna's desire. And then my next point was that even Indra is not on that. Even Indra is not on that platform of bhava. Like in the story of the Vritasur, we can see that he was selfish. He wanted to win, so therefore he instead of allowing Vritasur to attack him, he attacked himself on Vritasur. And then my next point is that Gajendra says that I don't have experience of transcendental bliss, but I know that pure devotees are fully satisfied and don't want or pray for anything else. So Gajendra, he was kind of acting like he was not acting, but he was on the platform on which he was not really proud that I'm on that platform. He's saying that he's not on that platform. And my next point is that the difference between Gajendra's and our prayer is that Gajendra was not asking the Lord to free himself from the crocodile, but from material life. But if we would be in that situation, we would ask Krishna to free us from the crocodile and not to free us from this world. So we have a different perspective in our prayer. We don't have that spiritual perspective that we can satisfy Krishna. And then we also remember the 5 types of liberations. And then my last point was that from the material point the dust from one's feet is normal. But the Lord's dust is so spiritual that we put it on our heads. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Haripriya. Such a nice summary. You touched on all the main points. So wonderful. Okay, so we'll end now. Thank you, everyone. And next week we will continue, same time, and chapter 5. And I've already posted the homework for chapter 4. It's there in that same document I posted.
Prabhuji,
Thank you, Prabhuji.
sorry to interrupt.
Thank
One more
you,
question.
Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhuji, what is what approach should we make to study? Like the study guide is there, the Nectar of Devotion book is there,
Thank you.
and the slides are there. So what should be the approach? Because I really get confused. Like,
Yes. Yeah, a very good question. There's a few study groups, and you can make your own study group. I would, suggest studying together. It makes it really fun. And so that's one way to go about it. But the key thing, the first thing is to read the chapter. All these courses, Prabhupada said, and our senior devotees have said, all these courses are excuses for reading and studying Prabhupada's books carefully. So sometimes, devotees will listen to the class and then they'll find the answers to the questions and they'll respond to it. But we miss the main thing if we do that. So first thing is to read the chapter, and then you read the questions and you'll know exactly what the answers are. They're, especially for Nectar Devotion, they're right there in the chapter. And then to help you answer the questions and also to check your work, use the study guide. So you listen to the class, read the book, answer the questions, and use the study guide.
got it, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. And see if you can make a study group. That'll make it really fun. The whole course, it makes it really fun to answer the questions with other. You can do it on Zoom with other devotees. Yeah.
If any group is there, I mean, I can join.
Yeah, I'm not actually aware of the groups. Like devotees have done it individually.
We have a group study, like the homework group. So we are meeting on Tuesday. Maybe we will send that. We will add that on the Bhakti Shastri course, and then if anybody else wants to join, they can join. Thank you, Prabhu.
Sure, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Mataji, you'll be posting it in the group?
Yeah, I will post on the Bhakti Shastri the same group, and whoever wants to join, they are most welcome.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Bol.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Dandavat pranam, Prabhu. Thank you so much.